Today's lesson is going to explore using the PGCC databases to perform research for a problem solution paper. At this point in our project annotated bibliography project module, you've already started to explore how to do research. You may have completed the library research tutorials or looked at the different types of sources that we can use, such as popular and scholarly sources. But this lesson will explore how to perform research specifically for the kind of paper or the kinds of topics that we're working with in our class. So step one, know your topic and know your research questions. We've been working on developing these research questions, and you may have thought that the activity wasn't very important, but trust me, it becomes important as you're trying to build a collection of resources to answer your main question. For our sample, our main question is going to be, how can PGCC improve transportation options for students? Your question will be something similar. How can PGCC improve whatever problem you've identified at the college? Your sub-questions, which are important because they'll help you answer that main question, should relate to establishing what the current state of the problem is, how the current problem is negatively impacting students, trying to identify the causes of the problem so that we can try to solve it, and then looking at maybe what other institutions, other colleges, other universities, other community colleges have done to try to solve the issue. All of these things will help you get to the answer to how can PGCC improve transportation options for students. So to start our research, we're going to begin by accessing the PGCC library databases. And then we're going to choose a specific database. So I will go do these things, but keep in mind that there are a variety of databases available to you, and I'll show you which ones are most useful for a class like English 1010. To access the library, you scroll to the bottom of the library's page, and the PGCC page, and you click on Library. That will bring you to the library's main page. A lot of students will start over here in the basic search bar. You can do that. You're welcome to do that. But that will search through every item, every database, every journal that the library has access to. So your search results are going to be in the thousands, if not the millions. So it's helpful to try to go to a database that will be helpful. So when I click on databases by subject, I can see a bunch of different subjects. Now, depending on your topic that you've chosen for the problem solution, the education database might be really helpful for you. But for most of our topics, general interdisciplinary databases are going to be the most helpful. Those would be Academic OneFile, General OneFile, or ProQuest. I would recommend starting here. Another area you can start, I'll go back for a second, is you can start in the news and current events databases called CQ Researcher and Opposing Viewpoints and Context. Those are very general, and you're welcome to use those. But for today's activity, we are going to use those general interdisciplinary databases. We'll start with ProQuest. So here's the search page for ProQuest. As you can see, I've already been playing around with my search terms. So you'll try to identify some search terms that will help you get results for your research question. So that would be step 4, use keywords to search for sources. What I did here was I broke down a bunch of different keywords and combinations that I could use for my search. A lot of students get really frustrated because they type in a single combination and they don't find anything relevant. We'll look at an example here. So we're going to go to public transportation and college. Those are good search terms for our research question. So let's see what we've got here. We've got a lot of results. Even just looking in ProQuest, we have over 1 million results. So imagine how many we would have had if we just went to the library's main page. We would probably have 5 or 10 million results. So we are going to apply some filters. You always want to make sure full text. That means that you actually have access to it instead of just having access to the summary. And we also want to limit to peer-reviewed sources if we're looking for scholarly sources right now. Popular sources are much easier to find, so let's say we're looking for a scholarly source. This has limited us to only 105,000. I don't know about you, but I don't have time to read that many. So I'm also going to limit to just scholarly journals to make sure they're definitely going to be scholarly. And then I'm also going to limit my filter to, let's see, let's just do the last 5 years. Depending on your topic, the last 5 years might be appropriate, or the last 10 years might be appropriate. Okay, so now we've got fewer results, but let's take a look. I'm just going to scroll through, and since I've done this ahead of time, I'll tell you that none of the sources on the first 3 pages are useful for me. This is where a lot of students would come to my office, or they would send me an email, and they would say, there aren't good sources on my topic, I think I need to change it. But you just have to keep playing with your search results, keep playing with the databases that you're looking in, because I promise you will find something. You just have to get really creative with your search terms, and you have to be pretty resilient. So we're going to go back and try a different database. We just did ProQuest. Let's try Academic One file. And maybe we'll try different search terms. So I clicked to Advanced Search. Let's try public transportation and campus. So if we go back to my search terms, we had a few different terms, but I'm going to add campus because I wasn't finding much when I was typing in college. So we'll do campus. And then we'll limit our search. We'd want peer review. We definitely want full text. And now let's see what we find. Okay, so we only have 12 search results. So this is a much more specific search findings. I think this is going to be more promising. So the first one, getting around in a college town, a case study of transportation barriers faced by international students at the University of Alabama. So our topic isn't necessarily looking at international students, but I bet a study that looks at how people get around in a college town could still be useful for our topic of looking at transportation. So let's click on this source. Okay, so if I scroll down, you can see that this is just words, 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 lots of words, some charts. This is a long source. Some students would leave because they say this is too long. Don't do that. Make sure you stay if it looks like it could be promising. We're going to read the abstract. So just a heads up, I've already read this. I know it's useful. But what you want to do is you want to read the abstract to see if this could be a useful source for you. Keep in mind that in your actual paper, you will never use the abstract. The abstract is like the summary on the back of a book, on the book cover. You wouldn't actually cite from the summary, you would cite from the book itself. What this little abstract summary here does for you is helps you decide if you want to investigate the source more. Since scholarly sources are pretty long, the abstract will help you determine if it's worth investing your time in. So after reading this, I know that it's looking at traveling in personal vehicles, public transportation, walking, biking, the convenience and reliability of those things, and that the findings can be interesting to transportation experts, university administrators, and college students. This seems like a very helpful source. What you want to make sure you do is you access the full PDF text of any scholarly source that you find. So on our instructions here, we've already narrowed down our search. We found a promising article, we clicked on it, we read its abstract, and it says, if the article is useful, download the full text PDF. And we do that because the full text looks very different from what gets copy and pasted on this page you have to scroll through. So let's open up that PDF. Usually you can find it in some sort of download icon. Sometimes it'll say download PDF. Sometimes it'll say download full text. Here it just says download, and that can be hard for students to find. But once we download it, we'll see how different it looks. You can already see this looks quite different. It has headings that are more obvious. It's got all of the sections. The charts look better. It actually seems to have more charts than the main page, which means that that main page where things were just copy and pasted didn't even have all of the information because it didn't have that long chart in there. So as you can see, this is a much more helpful version of that source. Another reason we want to open it this way is because it's going to tell us the page number where that source was published within the scholarly journal. And we're going to need these page numbers if we used quotes or paraphrases from this source. So you want to download this, maybe save it, or there are some options for saving it, sending it to yourself, keeping the link, but you want to make sure if you think this is useful, you save it and you read it more closely later. Later in our module, we're going to read something called how to read a scholarly research article that will help you see how to get the information from that really long article without actually reading the entire article. So for now, just hold on to this source and prepare to take notes on it because we already know this is probably going to be a useful source for our research question. So you're going to repeat this to keep finding more sources. You can look for popular sources. So databases like Opposing Viewpoints in Context or CQ Researcher have a lot of sources from magazines, news articles, podcasts. Those can be helpful as popular sources. But students tend to struggle more with scholarly sources, which is why I showed you how to do that in this video. But what's important, if you need more help, seek out the librarians. They went to school, they went to 2 extra years of school just to learn how to do research and how to help other people complete research. So during the week or during their business hours, on this online reference help ask us area, it's offline right now because it's outside of business hours. But usually you can type into that chat and ask the librarians for help. You can let them know your research question and they'll help you. You can also click on the Ask Us and see their hours. And you can pop in, you can give them a call, but please, instead of abandoning your search or saying there's just no information out there, or picking sources that aren't really strong, make sure you're finding the best sources by getting help from the librarians. I'm also here to help you, but using the tools that I've provided in the modules and by seeking help from the librarians, I promise you that any topic you're writing about, you can find good research. It just takes a little bit of creativity.